But one of the things that runs through all this is the mischief that Iran is causing. Iran has been doing this affairs. Iran has been destabilizing Syria, Yemen, trying to destabilize Saudi Arabia, Ukraine. Iran is involved with the Taliban. Iran is involved with supporting terrorism, exporting with the proceeds of the terrorist organizations, and interfering in affairs of other countries. I think we deal with the problem of Iran, and I think it will be a great contribution to the stability and security.
Allowing us to talk about what we feel being people from the region. We grew up talking about the Palestine-Israel dispute as the most important issue that we have to see either solved or one way or another. But then, at the later stage, we saw a bigger challenge. We saw a more toxic one. In fact, the most toxic in our modern history, which came from the Islamic Republic, from Iran. We had a dispute that we need to solve. We knew the parameters of the dispute between Israel and its neighbors, at that time including Egypt and Jordan, which eventually solved. But we saw another challenge from 1979 that came to us from Tehran, and that has no parameters, that has no boundaries, that we would wake up every day with a new challenge from them. So this is what we have faced, and actually when I talk about Iran, I have to be very careful, because Iran is a country, Iran is people, Iran is civilization, Iran is the peace-loving nature of its own people, but not the theo-fascist regime that we are facing every day. So Sheikh Abdullah just raised a very poignant point when he said, what country made the most loss to our country? What country killed most of our people and injured and made most of our people and smuggled explosives that would have raised our capital from the face of earth? It's Iran. It's this Islamic Republic. So this challenge is we have to face in order to deal with other challenges. When we come to Palestine-Israel, we had processes. There was a Camp David agreement. There was Madrid. There was many other ways of solving it, and if we had stayed on the same path, and if it wasn't for the toxic money, guns, and foot soldiers of the Islamic Republic, I think we would have been much closer today in solving this issue with Israel. But this is a serious challenge that is preventing us now from moving forward in any way. Be it Syria, be it Yemen, be it Iraq, be it anywhere that my country is under threat. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask one question related to what's going on in Iran, and I want to go back on some of the specific issues that each of you basically touched on in terms of the role that Iran is playing. I'm just curious now, from your respective points of view, it's clear that Iran is experiencing real economic difficulties. We've seen a great deal.
Allowing us to talk about what we feel being people from the region. We grew up talking about the Palestine-Israel dispute as the most important issue that we have to see either solved or one way or another. But then, at the later stage, we saw a bigger challenge. We saw a more toxic one. In fact, the most toxic in our modern history, which came from the Islamic Republic, from Iran. We had a dispute that we need to solve. We knew the parameters of the dispute between Israel and its neighbors, at that time including Egypt and Jordan, which eventually solved. But we saw another challenge from 1979 that came to us from Tehran, and that has no parameters, that has no boundaries, that we would wake up every day with a new challenge from them. So this is what we have faced, and actually when I talk about Iran, I have to be very careful, because Iran is civilization. Iran is the peace-loving nature of its own people, but not the theo-fascist regime that we are facing every day. So Sheikh Abdullah just raised a very poignant point when he said, what country made the most loss to our country? What country killed most of our people and injured and made most of our people and smuggled explosives that would have raised our capital from the face of earth? It's Iran. It's this Islamic Republic. So this challenge is we have to face in order to deal with other challenges. When we come to Palestine and Israel, we had processes. There was a Camp David agreement. There was Madrid. There was many other ways of solving it, and if we had stayed on the same path, and if it wasn't for the toxic money, guns, and foot soldiers of the Islamic Republic, I think we would have been much closer today in solving this issue with Israel. But this is a serious challenge that is preventing us now from moving forward in any way. Be it Syria, be it Yemen, be it Iraq, be it anywhere that my country is under threat. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask one question related to what's going on in Iran, and I want to go back on some of the specific issues that each of you basically touched on in terms of the role that Iran is playing. I'm just curious now, from your respective points of view, it's clear that Iran is experiencing real economic difficulties. We've seen a great deal
has succeeded in being a center of trade. And I would be extremely wealthy and happy as a nation, as the UAE, if I had a better neighbor. But that's not the case. It's easy for some of our European friends, or further, want to engage with Iran, but you are quite a distance. And sometimes, obviously, when the Americans take the lead about it and talk about ballistic weapons, there is a debate about it.
Colleagues about the behavior of the Iranian regime even before. Look, we are a country that used to be claimed as a 14th province.
Low-cost strategy where they use Shia militia proxies. They expose their own forces in a minimal way. They're usually quite happy to fight to the last with the proxy militias. Some are obviously very well built up, like Hezbollah. But we also, I could list, Chief Jeffries is here, he can list even more than me. I could list 7 different militias, significant militias in Iraq that also...
No. So what we ask Iran is what they should do, and the world community should stand for us. Extend your hand to the region, and not into this region, because we will be on our toes 24/7 facing them.
Go ahead.
With regards to the JCPOA, I think there's a lot of naivety around the world. The Iran issue has 3 components to it. One is the nuclear program, which is a deal that doesn't allow Iran to enrich and does not have a sunset provision, and that has intrusive 24/7 inspections regime, is a deal that could take care of Iran's nuclear program. We don't have that with the JCPOA. The second element of the Iran issue is Iran's ballistic missile program. Building ballistic missiles and giving them to terrorist organizations is not acceptable, and there are resolutions that say Iran should be punished for that. And then the third angle of the Iran issue is support for terrorism. Supporting terrorists, paying them money, setting up terrorist organizations, blowing up embassies and killing diplomats is not acceptable. And that also we have resolutions that require sanctions. The JCPOA was signed, and everybody thought, okay, now everything is fine. Iran in 10 years is going to turn into Wonderland, and let's ignore the other stuff. Meanwhile, we in the region bear the brunt of all the other stuff that Iran is doing, and for us 10 years is a big blink of an eye. So Iran ends up with a nuclear weapon, theoretically capable of doing one very quickly because no limits on enrichment. Who's going to suffer? We are. Iran gives ballistic missiles to Houthis and Hezbollah. Who suffers? We do, in the region. And so people have to be serious about how to deal with the problem of Iran and what the best way of dealing with it is. I wish the Iranians can change and become a normal country. That would be the best for all of us. As Sheikh Abdullah was saying, we can trade with them. We're going to be living next to them for the next 2,000 years. But they're not there yet. And any attempts to be nice to them, if anything, encourages them rather than discourages them. And they present two faces to the world. One in the form of the government, the president and the foreign minister, who speak softly but have no influence. And the other face is the revolutionary guards and the Quds Force, which cause all that mischief, and they have all the power. And so we should not be fooled by one face of Iran when the reality is something else.
I want to dig a little deeper into how we begin to
fight against this. I think the problem that we have with Iran is their attacks against it are asymmetrical. This regime has no morals. They have no problem assassinating diplomats and blowing up embassies. We don't do this. And so they've used these militias to undermine people. We have had more than 220 ballistic missiles fall on Saudi cities, all supplied by the Iranians. We have captured weapons with Iranian markings on them. The United Nations have attested to the fact that Iran supplied these missiles to the Houthis, which we then either intercepted or we captured. And so the Iranians must hear from the international community that their behavior is not acceptable. Trying to make deals with them, trying to find ways to circumvent the financial system in order to be able to trade with Iran in spite of the sanctions imposed by the US is not a helpful message. The more helpful message is to say to the Iranians, if you want us to deal with you like a normal nation, you must act like a normal nation. You must respect the principle of non-interference in the affairs of other countries, and you have to stop your support for terrorism and providing ballistic missiles to terrorist organizations.
That makes perfect sense. I have to say, it sort of leads me to raise an example. We know primarily the Quds Force in Syria and the Hezbollah and Shia militias. We know, at least from published media reports, that the Israelis have probably carried out more than 200 operations to blunt what the Iranians are doing in Syria. Is that something from your standpoint? Is that surprising to you? Do you understand it?
Well, every nation has the right to defend itself when it's challenged by other nation. Yes. Going back to your question on specifically what we should do, I think we should start somewhere. And Warsaw is a great place to start. So thank you, Mr. President, for having us, and Mr. Vice President for getting us here. But what's more important is how can we create this as a platform that Iran starts seriously thinking that how can I be so outnumbered by so many important countries, allies, friends, countries of value, of character, of culture. I can't be wrong. And if it's not for the Iranian leader, it's for the Iranian people. We get 500,000 Iranians come to visit the UAE every year. I'm sure that just by going through the airports, they see the difference between Iran and the UAE. But at the same time, when they see a country which is the home of the most important values of Islam, Mecca and Medina, developing and reforming and starting to open itself and its country for tourism. I mean, guess last year, what made the Iranians seriously change their views on soccer, allowing women to attend soccer games? Was the decision in Saudi Arabia to without women and subjects. I mean, with all the respect to the JCPOA, I never thought the JCPOA would change Iran. I think the Arabs around Iran will change Iran. The minute the Iranians see that there is a serious change in development in Arabia, then they're worried. Then the big questions start coming. And it's not appropriate for me to say, come and bet on us, but I assure you, if you bet on us, we have a better chance of changing Iran by the way.
So the implication of what you're saying, I think, fall along a number of lines. I'm sort of summarizing collectively from what I've heard from you. One is where the Iranians kind of see what they stand to lose. 4 is that building effective models of governance in all the key Arab states, which can then stand in contrast to the mismanagement, corruption that you were citing before. Here are 4 kind of strands that emerge from this. I know we would give it a certain time limit up here, so I want to conclude this panel with a question again to the 3 of you. What would you like the outcome of this conference to be? Start with you, Bob. We'll go in reverse order.
You answered it a little while ago. This conference should not be a one-off. This conference should have a next step or a next gathering or things that we can do together, all of us here. I think it's a message should be to Iran that the world is united. And also that Iran by itself should change its behavior from not jumping to wanting to be a superpower, and they are not a superpower. Or they just think that they want to do that. They should be a good regional player in good terms with their region, the whole region. But they chose another path. They chose to destroy, control, kill, and be a hegemon. They came to every country in the region. We have our issues in the region, and as I told you from the beginning, we grew up with the issue of the Israel-Palestine matter. They started changing the rules of the game. How many conferences, and we have achieved a lot before them. We need to show that we are united, all of us, to achieve peace. We are united against theo-fascism. And you know who's your number one ally who would listen to you? It's the Iranian people. I come from a country like Sheikh Abdullah, like my brother Adam. Our countries are microcosms, especially this small country which is mine. It's a microcosm of this whole nation. Arabs, Persians, Jews, Christians, Hindus, and I'm not talking about transient communities, I'm talking about all communities living together. So if we succeed, the whole world will succeed. And the Iranians are listening. The Iranians are tired. They don't want to go through this trouble that they have every day with the theo-fascist regime. And they will want to really help and get help that we can do for them. I'm not calling for regime change. I'm calling from sending the right message to the Iranian regime that the world does not agree with you. To us, Iran is already nuclear. Iran is already a nuclear power because what they are doing is cheap and destructive and it's killing our people. It doesn't take a nuclear power to do that. So whatever it is what they are doing, it's not what's the most important thing to us. We are already being harmed by them. And in the front line, we say it's us, but also as the people of that country. Thank you.
I am struck by the fact that you were very clear, you're not calling for regime change. Obviously, efforts at regime change...
It's not our business to do so.
Also, efforts at regime change haven't turned out so well.
I'm sorry?
Efforts at regime change haven't turned out so well, so I also appreciate that. But it also seems to me that you are, again, you're looking to present also a favorable model as an alternative. Delta seem to be especially keen on that.
Well, I mean, let's try, and the more they're hearing different voices, it confuses them. I mean, I think most of us, I believe all of us don't want a regime change, because we've seen how regime changes cause havoc. But we need a serious regime behavior change. Now, if we can do that, that would, first of all, it will take time. It will need a lot of effort, a lot of work. But a lot of countries have to come together. I mean, this is a start, but there's a long way to go before we create enough voices to the Iranians that this has an end. Because if not, it will just take longer to change the mindset.
So I'll listen to the start.
Yeah, I think I want to make a point that this is not an Iran bashing conference. That's not why we're here. We're here to look at peace and security in the Middle East. The problem that it has to become that because of the reality of Iran's history. When you look at Lebanon is an Arab country which has 16 different religious and ethnic groups. If it didn't exist, we would have to invent it. Because Lebanon shows that minorities are part of the social fabric of the Middle East and are welcome and enrich our region. If they don't feel safe, we lose a hugely important asset to us. So who's destabilizing Lebanon? Iran, for example. Look at the Palestinians. Who's supporting Hamas and Islamic Jihad and undercutting the Palestinian Authority? Iran. Look at Syria. Who's involved in sending militias from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and from Iran to destroy the country? Iran. You look at Syria, Iraq. Who was destabilizing Iran, pushing sectarianism? Iran. Who's trying to smuggle weapons into Kuwait and into Bahrain and into Saudi Arabia? Iran. Who's providing ballistic missiles to terrorist organizations? Iran. Who at one point was having factories to assemble weapons in Sudan? Iran. Who's all over Africa trying to cause mischief? Iran. Who's in Thailand causing mischief among the 10% Muslim population there? Iran. Who's trying to cause mischief in Indonesia among Muslims? Iran. So when you look at this whole set of this deck of cards, so to speak, you find Iran all over the place. We cannot stabilize the region without peace between Israel and Palestinians. We cannot stabilize the region without peace in Lebanon, or Syria, or Iraq, or Yemen, or the Horn of Africa. And wherever we go to those areas, we find Iran's evil behavior.
What you're saying is, conflict resolution in the region depends upon Iran changing its behavior.
Absolutely. Because we in Saudi Arabia are focusing inwards. We want to improve our economy, liberate women, liberate youth, diversify our economy, instill a culture of innovation and technology in order to empower our youth and unleash their potential and provide opportunity. The problems all around us complicate what we're trying to do, and it goes back to Iran. So you ask me, you want peace and stability in the Middle East, you've got to deal with the issue of Iran. And the way to deal with it is what my brothers just mentioned. We have to make it clear to the Iranians that if they want to be treated like a normal country, they have to act like a normal country. And that the behavior that they've exhibited since the Iranian Revolution is not acceptable. Since 1979, we've extended our anti-Iran friendship, and all we get back is death and destruction. I want to see one Iranian diplomat that we hunt. I can give you a list of Saudi diplomats that were assassinated by Iran. I want to see one Iranian embassy that we did damage to. I can point to 3 attempts in Iran against our embassies and assassinations of our diplomats in a number of countries. I want to see one terror cell that we planted in Iran. Any of us. 0. But we captured Iranian terror cells virtually day after day. That's the headache for the region. So I wish the Iranians would turn into a normal country and begin to take care of themselves, begin to develop the country. They're a country that's rich in history, that's rich in culture. Their people deserve a better future. But this regime, unfortunately, is not providing it to them. So what do we do as the world? We stand united. We make it clear what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. We don't go with double standards. For for example, one of the biggest jokes is when you say Hezbollah has a military wing and a political wing. There is no such thing. The Houthis have a military wing and a political wing. No, a bird with one head and two wings. You cannot justify dealing with unsavory governments or movements by trying to find justification like this. And so we need to call a spade a spade.
Please join me in giving